episode of Retail Media Thursdays. I'm Simon Piper, Executive VP for Skai across EMEA, and today we're going to be talking with Sarah Cloy from Unilever. Looking forward to it. Hope you enjoy. So welcome, Sarah.
Hi, Simon. Lovely to be here.
Yeah, great to see you. So why don't we kick things off by you telling us a little bit about yourself and your role at Unilever?
Yeah, of course. So yeah, really nice to be here. It's quite funny sitting in a very familiar pub space. I'm Sarah, and I look after all things digital commerce within the international expansion arm of our Wellbeing Collective at Unilever. Essentially, that really means setting up like new digital capabilities for our Wellbeing Collective so that we can kind of internationalise and expand the brands that we've acquired in the US outside of border.
Okay, makes a lot of sense. So before we get into it, give us a quick peek of the week, so either personally or professionally.
Okay, with this one, I'm going to be a little bit selfish and say it's a hybrid model of both professional and also personal, because for me, like it centres around wellbeing, which is obviously a big part of my job, a big part of the purpose of my role. And for me personally, wellbeing is exercise and sports. I think we were just talking about this. We're both connected over being tennis players. I've unfortunately been quite injured with an Achilles injury the past few months, so I've been off the court, and this week I did my first 10k of the year. So I feel like my well-being is back up this week, and as long as my physio is not really listening to this, then we're all good. So yeah, that's my peak of the week is kind of getting back out there.
So getting back into it.
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay, so tell us about this pub. Which pub are we in, and why did you choose it?
Yeah, absolutely. So we're at the Pig and Whistle of Earlsfield, if anyone knows it. It is about 30 feet from my house. So and I was still a few minutes late. But yeah, it's my local, which is quite dangerous being that close to a pub that has a lovely beer garden when the sun's shining. But yeah, it's great, quite local, independent pub run by some South African owners. So there's a big tendency for live sport on here, and it's definitely over indexes in rugby. My husband's a big rugby fan, so that's why we're here quite a lot to watch a Quins game or a Six Nations match.
Makes a lot of sense.
And I think it was a local for you.
It was, yeah. I used to live about 300 metres that way. This is back in 2007, I think it was, yeah. We're big into tennis, so we used to pop up and play. We're about half a mile from the All England club here, right? So,
yeah, absolutely.
So yeah, not...
tennis-centric area.
Exactly. So you were saying you're responsible for expanding brands for Unilever outside of the US. Can you tell us a little bit about how you balance the D2C strategies and the retailer-based strategies and how you go about approaching this?
Yeah, sure. So obviously within the Wellbeing Collective side of the Unilever business, we are quite D2C centric, and we really see D2C as a complementary business model alongside, it plays a really strategic role alongside our retailer strategy. And by this I mean it's like the channel where we can do some great brand building, we can connect with our community, we can do a lot of test and learn across different acquisition, retention techniques, whether that be personalization or different merchandising drops, and obviously all of that ladders into us being able to capture first party data, and then we're able to essentially mine that data, early signals, insights, and then feed that back into our traditional retailer channels. So really it's about harnessing D2C to drive a performance advantage, where the D2C becomes the heartbeat of the ecosystem of sales and marketing. And if we can do a lot of test and learn, have a whole pipeline of tests, then we get that data, and then give that back to our retailer teams, so that we can optimize that kind of full funnel planning, strategic development across the board. So I guess in summary, it's really a complementary strategy using D2C, rather than trying to cannibalize anything from a retailer perspective.
It makes a lot of sense. I love the way you're taking the data from one and then using that too.
We're on a journey. We set up our first kind of D2C site within kind of Unilever UK last year, and so we're on a journey, but we're looking to our the blueprint of the US team, who have done a brilliant job of building up their community connections through their D2C site.
So we've been talking a little bit before about social media, right? And you're saying you're doing a lot of work with TikTok shops. Tell us a little bit about what the hardest pieces are in cracking TikTok, and also what you're finding working.
Sure. So yeah, we just launched our first TikTok shop in the UK a few months ago. So yeah, go check it out. It's a Wellbeing Collective store. So we're very much on the start of a journey. But to your point, why have we done this? We're able to really stress test this whole culture. We talk about culture that converts at Unilever a lot,
okay.
And it's in a brilliant channel for us to able to test and learn, but also enable social, people are going on there to discover products, and also we're giving a frictionless experience, right? Searching, social media, scrolling, and then checkout, and then it's into you the next day. So that's the kind of methodology, but as you say, it's not been a silver bullet of turning the shop on and seeing it in the same kind of channel as, let's say, an Amazon.
Yeah.
So in terms of what's been a challenge, it's the content. So
okay.
I think anyone that's kind of working on TikTok shop, generating the volume of content that's required to override the algorithms, gain the visibility, is tricky with, in tandem, maintaining quality of that content. And, to drive quality, we know you've got to ensure that your creators are being authentic and you're giving them freedom. But the area of the business, obviously, that I'm operating in is quite highly regulated within vitamins, minerals, supplements, products. So that whole balance of enabling creation and creativity with an element of control is definitely, I think, the challenge.
Yeah.
But I think in terms of learning and what we're looking and developing and what's working, to your point, we really fortunate, a few of us, to go out to China last month and learn from our Unilever China team and some of our TSP partners out there who are doing a brilliant job, and actually met Douyin themselves, and why it's not it's not a like for like at this point social commerce journey in Europe that it is, or even the US, as in China. I think the average daily user on TikTok or Douyin in China is about 3 hours. It's not quite at that scale yet, but there's a lot of learnings we've kind of taken and tried to implement into the business. So just a top 3, I think content, driving desirable content at scale is definitely the key. Well, data is obviously is a core of that, and you can see TikTok is enabling brands to be able to kind of build full funnel planning strategy better. It's just launched Market Scope, a kind of data tool, because I think it realizes as a platform, it says it's kind of under indexes in terms of brand investment in media, because people are scrolling and not clicking. So it's really hard for brands, right, to prove that return back to the business. So I think that's something that they're kind of arming brands with tactically. And I think lastly, AI is definitely kind of the feature, how we as brands can harness that for that desirable kind of content at scale will basically be a great capability for us to win on TikTok shop.
Makes a lot of sense. Yeah, I can see how it's got to play into the velocity piece as well, right?
Yeah, absolutely, and keep that visibility up. You can't pay to play, right? You can on retail media. It's the content that's driving that visibility. Yeah. And you have to test and learn through loads of different formats. And I think the kind of snippet here is maybe the short video format is what we're seeing in particular resonate really well for us.
Yeah, and it's fascinating to hear how you're thinking about things globally as well, and again sharing learnings across not just strategies but also regions too. Yeah, absolutely. There's that team are doing some absolutely brilliant work, and it's great that Unilever, we're being empowered to kind of go and learn from each other, and steal with pride where relevant. So with a combination of e-com and media under your remit, how do you find a platform such as Amazon to really help drive performance, and how are you using some of the tools like AMC to really help with that? Yeah, absolutely. So as an ex-Amazonian, I can sometimes be a little bit biased in response to this type of question. But no, in kind of a seriousness, I think, we see Amazon as a really unique channel to enable full funnel integrated planning. And I think, and we'll get into it in a minute, but AMC is now enabling brands to measure and optimize
full funnel campaign planning to a much greater, more granular level. So I think it's only going to scale up. And this whole kind of top to funnel capability of Amazon, I think, it is quite nuanced. So maybe starting with the top part, we're really trying to drive like efficiency, like CPM efficiency and reach through some of Amazon's higher funnel channels. So like the likes of Twitch or Prime Video ads, even like share voice packages on Prime Day. We're leveraging that and seeing some really great results for efficiency from a reach perspective. So we're not trying to just think about Amazon as a channel for purely conversion, but really comparing those eCPMs versus a Meta or a Google, and then it gets like interesting, right, as a kind of retail media conversation. And I think there's maybe, we were talking about was being quite sporty. I'm a bit biased here again, maybe, but the NFL, and I think there's more, the stat is like there's more eyeballs during Prime Day than there is during the Super Bowl. And I think, look, like how brands can, we as Unilever do invest in obviously some brilliant advertising during the Super Bowl. I'm not saying that shouldn't be a strategy, of course, but it's just, we can't ignore Amazon as a channel for reach. Obviously, as you go through the funnel, engagement is key. So how do you use display or DSP, ads to disrupt that shopper? If you think about the kind of area that we're in at the moment of like launching new brands into new markets, we're trying to create categories. They're not necessarily, shopper might not necessarily be brand loyal at this point. They might not have heard of, say, Liquid IV, but then they're kind of learning, okay, we want to add hydration into my routine. So it's really important, for us that we're kind of disrupting that shopper on that journey when they're coming onto Amazon to search from a category point of view. And then, of course, like slightly lower funnel, sponsored brands, sponsored ads are, critical to win in terms of paying for play, share like basically on shelf through search. I think I read a stat the other day that like 40% of kind of brand searches, and the top spots are through like paid advertising through sponsored products. So need to be investing there, as well as obviously ensuring that the digital shelf is optimized. And again, like your brand store can be a great way of like building that community and connecting with your consumer at point of shelf. And then retention, like I guess you've got subscribe and save, brand tailored promotions, all of that can obviously drive your like CTLV on platforms. So I think it's like really looking at it full funnel, and then now with Amazon Marketing Cloud, them giving us this like clean room technology to plug in our 1P data, we can start like measuring but optimizing that full funnel performance, and ultimately that gives us those tools and I kind of guess return data points to go back to the business and say, hey, maybe we need to pivot some more budget here, or Amazon's pretty smart in terms of I guess arming us with
exactly
with those data points,
the storytelling and the connectivity as well, right? And the ability to measure, I think, is so important when it comes to proof points through to the CFOs and the wider business. Yeah,
absolutely. And I think not only measure on platform on Amazon, but AMC is now allowing us to say, right, if this placement on Amazon is it driving cannibalization of our D2C shopper, or is it actually just driving awareness? And we know that D2C shopper is always going to go check out back on the web shop, and that's actually what we're starting to see, is that Amazon advertising is growing kind of influence and awareness to our DC shopper, moving it front of mind. Okay, I need to go back later and check out on my Liquid IV web shop, but we're not actually cannibalizing that shopper by advertising on Amazon. And I think that's what's really, really exciting about how we can start to harness AMC.
So you work with a lot of agencies at Unilever, and that's really interesting, because obviously there's a bit of noise in the press at the moment about how the agency model is under a little bit of pressure. Love to just get a feel from you on how critical they are to your current plans and future success.
Yeah, absolutely. So I think, look, this is a really interesting topic, right? You could probably do a whole pod. I'm sure you probably have done a whole pod on this before. But us, right? We're taking established brands from the US and trying to grow and launch them in new markets. With starting off the brand awareness is really low. So we need expertise to kind of come on this journey with us, and also these brands are in new categories to Unilever, so we don't have necessarily the category expertise in-house either.
Yep.
And as we know, we're scaling very much like a startup model. We're a lean internal team, and of course, because we're a small business starting to grow outside of the US in these markets. So we're really, our agencies really give us kind of both the executional capacity that we need to scale at the speed and pace that we want, but also the thought leadership, the maybe strategic thinking that because these are for kind of Unilever firsts that we might not have in house. So it's really important to work with agency partners, and I love it getting in kind of diversity of thought through. Whether it's a creative agency or a decom agency, it makes us a better brand, right? But equally, as a team, it's really important that we're like always kind of reviewing that agency ecosystem.
Yep.
And as the brands grow, and there might be more kind of in-house. We might transition to a slightly more in-house model. It's just something that we constantly kind of reviewing and trying to optimize to have the best kind of optimal setup of the in-house, out-the-house model.
Okay, makes a lot of sense, right? You're in that disruptive innovator mode, so it's about velocity and the support to make that happen.
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay. So commerce is changing really rapidly, right? New formats, new platforms, new things happening all the time, right? How do you and the team stay sharp and keep learning at Unilever?
Yeah, it's a really good question. I think, for me, that's there's an external part. So whether that's LinkedIn and following kind of some really good thought leaders in our industry, that's actually a really important strategy of mine. And maybe I'll tend to follow and unfollow depending on what's a strategic priority of mine, so that I'm getting served that content that I want or I need. And then I think listening to podcasts, of course, the Retail Media Thursdays,
of course,
being one of those to learn. And I think another one is being obviously quite choiceful about the events and the conferences and those external training sessions that you go to. And in particular, I really like kind of meeting other D2C founders, so the kind of founder executioners verbatim. Because I often find that I'm facing into startup operational hurdles that they are, which they're always kind of bemused by how you're Unilever, but actually we're in this kind of startup mode and trying to drive velocity, and it's just brilliant to kind of learn from some of their tactics that it's actually quite akin to ours. And then I think lastly, just internal, obviously I referenced China and being able to kind of go and learn from our China team, and there's brilliant expertise across the business. If we take even Liquid IV, one of our brands in the US, the Amazon business is doing a brilliant job, and they've got some brilliant people in that part of the business. It's the number 3 best-selling SKU on Prime Day, and so it's about putting a coffee in, obviously coming with relevant targeted questions, but Unilever culture is very people want to help, want to share, and I try and kind of tap into that community as much as possible.
Great. So, thank you very much for your time today. It's been a pleasure to speak to you.
It's been great to be here.
So, just to finish this off, just for a bit of fun, 5 quick fire questions for you.
Okay.
So, first of all, let's go with paddle or tennis?
Ooh, that's a tricky question. Tennis still, but I am really loving my paddle at the same time at the moment.
Getting into it?
Yeah, for sure. The trajectory of ability is going up, unlike my tennis, which is probably going down. It feels nice to be learning a new skill, right? And plateaued. Let's go with that.
Yeah, okay, got it. All right, and then just keep it on the same theme. What's your favourite surface to play on?
Okay, let's go. I like these tennis questions. Probably acrylic. There's some really nice acrylic courts up the road. Okay. Knighton Park. So that's probably, when you hit a nice ball on the acrylic court, it's good. It's a good day. Easier than the clay. Sorry. Okay, makes a lot of sense. And then, so from I guess a social perspective, restaurants or pub? Ooh. Can I have 50-50?
You can mix it up. It's
I think
answer.
Maybe pub before the restaurant, if that's that.
Fine, or both.
Maybe both. Both together.
Strong. Yeah, and then also from a drinking perspective, what's your favourite tipple?
Again, I would say a crisp glass of French rosé on a sunny day is probably what I would have in this pub garden.
Yeah, good choice. And then I'm going to finish up with a work one.
Okay.
Work-related one, not too serious. Retailer first or D2C first strategy?
Oh, I can't answer that. But
I'm joking.
I think, having the two side by side, is ultimately the optimum for us as a business.
Great. Well, Sarah, thanks again for your time today.
Yeah,
Really appreciate it.
Yeah, it's been fun. Thank you.